I'm sure that's going to change here in just a second. No, I don't think that's what's making me not be able to hear you. I know, it's bulky, isn't it? And it covers your beautiful face.
This is the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good morning, Tuscaloosa. Internet world, good morning, West Alabama. How are we doing today on a Tuesday? It's the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral, BamaCentral.com. Hope you and yours are doing well. We are live on the BamaCentral Facebook page. We're live in the Derry Daniel State Farm Studios right here off McFarland Boulevard. We're proudly presented by, of course, Derek Daniel State Farm Insurance. Call him for all of your insurance needs at 205-758-3391. Like a good neighbor, Derek Daniel is there. And, of course, we're presented by Purple Turtle Roofing. You can call them at 877-787-6635 for your free roof inspection. Check them out online today at roofturtle.com. They'll make sure that you have the peace of mind that you deserve in your home. We appreciate both those great companies taking care of us. You can find the show on the Bama Central YouTube channel, Facebook page, on Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. You can get the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central. We're going to have a lot of fun today with our man, Theo Fernandez. You follow Theo Fernandez at Theo Fernandez _ writing all things Alabama athletics, leading our baseball coverage at BamaCentral.com. We're going to have a lot of fun today, or maybe not so much fun today, talking about Charles Bediako losing his case. Judge Daniel Pruitt came out yesterday and struck down the temporary restraining order and ended Charles Bediako's eligibility. So that's really what's going to be on the docket today. We'll take your phone calls at 205-462-7340. I'm 95% sure I've got a voicemail in here from Hunter, Theo, so that's great. We're going to get with Hunter and see what he has to say. On the voicemail line, you can do that at 205-462-7340, extension 800. Leave us a comment, question, query, or complaint on any of the platforms we already mentioned, and we're going to have a lot of fun today with that. All out of the way. Good morning, Theo. How you doing, sir?
Good morning, Joe. I'm doing great. Bediako decision finally comes in right. I think it's what we expected in many regards, but I was kind of spending all day Monday just waiting for the news to come in, and it took until about 5 o'clock, I think. 5:12 is this time that news broke, and I was completely getting ready for us to get no announcement, and then, bam, out of nowhere, comes through, and Bediako's season's done.
Yeah, and so pretty wild, pretty wild development. You having a good day so far? Are you ready to get into all that? Because you were all over it. You were at the courthouse. How long were you at the courthouse on Friday?
I was at the courthouse. I got there 8:30. And I want to say I left the courthouse right before 12 because I headed straight over to NATO. So just shy of a little over 3.5 hours at the courthouse.
But you didn't go back? I thought you went back.
I did go back later in the afternoon, right around closing time. Firstly, because I wanted to try to see if, hey, so like, does anyone have like a document they can give me, or is there any information? But then also to shoot the stand up for WVUA, doing a news package over there. And I spent probably combined 5 hours at the courthouse, which more time than I've ever spent in court, believe it or not. So that was an interesting day.
Well, that's a positive thing.
Yes.
That was the most you've ever spent at a courthouse, and you haven't spent longer time there for one of your infractions.
No, not yet, at least.
There you go. Let's see. Charlie Baker responding positively. Basically, everybody dancing on Charles Bediako's grave. Tuscaloosa County Judge Daniel Pruitt ruled Monday in favor of the defense, that is the NCAA, as the Alabama Center will no longer be able to suit up for the Crimson Tide for the rest of the season. Bediako's injunction hearing concluded at 10:45 on Friday. Pruitt asked for any proposed order from the attorneys to be filed by 4 o'clock, as a decision was yet to be made. But now one of the biggest stories in college football over the last couple of college basketball has been comes to a conclusion. Excuse me, I'm reading Hunter's story right here, and that's why I can't read, so sometimes you fumble up. Charlie Baker, the president of the NCAA, said common sense won a round today. The court saw this for what it was, an attempt by a professional to pivot back to college and crowd out the next generation of students. College sports are for students, not for people who have walked away to go pro and now want to hit the quote undo button at the expense of a teenager's dream. While we're glad the court upheld the rules our members actually want, one win doesn't fix the national mess of state laws. It's time for Congress to stop watching from the sidelines and help us provide some actual stability. Is Charlie Baker's statement after the NCAA won their case against Charles Bediako. Just your reaction here as the conclusion has basically been on Friday we both guessed that it was going to go poorly for Charles Bediako, and now it has gone poorly for Charles Bediako. Just your reaction to the news.
Yeah, so just being in the courthouse on Friday and listening to everything that was said, Judge Daniel Pruitt did really press the NCAA on a number of things. And I came in absolutely thinking that there's no way Bediako will play again. I left thinking he probably will never play again, but there was a bit of doubt in there where I thought maybe this would go his way. I stand by, personal opinion, what I said on Friday, which is that the NCAA system is completely broken. And it is unfair to take an opportunity away from Charles Bediako when we are in the situation where everybody's getting to play, where all these, hundreds of athletes with pro experience are out there. People who've played in the same exact league that Bediako is, people who've played in the G League are playing college basketball right now. So I do not agree with this decision. I think that the NCAA has stayed very consistent with what they said, right, for once, where they spent so much time in the courtroom on Friday and just did so much work to distinguish Bediako from the other pro athletes, right? Like there was a very lengthy monologue in there by the NCAA representative, the attorney, about the European pro basketball system and how these guys going pro is completely different than Bediako. So, and yeah, to address the comment up there right now.
Read it for people who are just listening.
Does this mean all these other pros lose their eligibility? It's time for everyone else to be under the same rules, European pros included. Now, let's just address this real quick, I guess, because...
Thanks for the comment, at RTR7291.
Yes, thank you for the comment, because that is the most common question right now, right? That's what everyone wants to know. The way it works in Europe is if you are a really good athlete, right? And people can tell by the age of 13 or so that you have a shot at playing big time college basketball, instead of in America where you're going to get offered to go to some great high school and you're going to get, we don't go to all the elite AAU tournaments and stuff in Europe. A professional organization will reach out to your family, will get you to come play for their program. So a lot of them mirror some of the big football clubs we see there. Like, for example, Real Madrid, right? Luka Doncic played basketball for Real Madrid. Before he played for Real Madrid, he played for a local club in Slovenia, where basically they were the first ones to notice him. They basically take the guy out of normal school. You get some kind of private education, right? But obviously that's not even really a big focus at that point. But basically you're getting a small stipend of money sent to your family, which is the case for most of these guys. Very few. You have to have a Luka Doncic type player for it to be a significant amount of money, anything really meaningful. But usually, no, it's just a little stipend sent to the family. You get room and board paid for, and you're basically being trained by this club full time with the hopes that you will one day either, one, play for that club at the highest level, right? You get out of the youth clubs and play for the real one, or they're able to sell you to a club like Real Madrid or to one of these big programs. So
it's exactly what happened with Leo Messi. Leo Messi pulled out of Argentina as a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, and pulled to Barcelona. He goes to the Barcelona academies as basically a middle schooler / high schooler, and trains with all the kids and trains with all the athletes. And that whole class of Barcelona academy players turned out to be, some of the best players in the world. But essentially, they gave Messi's parents, Messi's family money. They give him, basic schooling, but basically throw him on a soccer field, for 10 hours a day.
Yeah. And that is the correct line of thinking, but I do think it's dangerous to throw that out there because everyone's all of a sudden thinking, like, yeah, Messi's family was obviously getting a real amount of money right away. The average, like we talk about, oh, look at this Illinois roster with all their pro players. Those guys are not seeing that kind of money at all. So while the reason I believe that Bediako should be able to play right now is because there are pro athletes, right? And because the distinguishment was not made prior, right? We did not establish this. I think it would also be unfair to say that Bediako's case is the same as these European athletes. These European athletes had no other option but to be a pro basketball player at the age of 14 years old, right? And then I guess the other, when it gets to a little bit of a gray area is where you have these guys who are older than college age, and that's when they come over. But it is worth, because, you always hear about you have a 5-year clock, right, from the time you finish high school. Well, these European players don't go to high school, so how do you possibly account for that fairly? And that's where I think there's some controversy, and I just think there's so much that still needs to be determined, and that's why Bediako should be able to continue to take the court for Alabama.
I understand that, and I agree with that from an Alabama perspective. Look at everybody else who is bending rules or is going through loopholes. But you got to, if you're the NCAA, you've got to start closing them at some point. You've got to start get your foot down at some point. And like Charlie Baker said, it is just one win, just one round. They've got a lot more work to do to basically get this sport back to looking like anything that we all grew up thinking it was, where exactly as you described, 5 years to play 4, you can redshirt. Basically, you've got to get right out of high school. You can't be an old man playing college basketball. That's been my biggest issue, is not the college player, the European player who's 19, who's 20, who comes over. Like, you've already gone a year or two after the college age, and so you need to. I guess the NCAA needs to try to enforce it at an age point. 17 years old, you got 5 more years, so you can go to 22, maybe 23. And if you're whether you played for Barcelona or you played for Real, the town down the road, like whatever professional entity you played for in Europe, that's fine. But you can come in here, you got to be done by the time you're 23, so you can go play in the NBA or play G League. The inconsistency is what leaves the Alabama fan feeling burned today. But ultimately, I think they got the decision correct because of the fact that, Charles, look, you're here for 2 years. You had your time, yes, and you willingly part of the draft process, part of the NBA draft process is you willingly giving up your college eligibility. And okay, if you stay in past the declaration date, you're giving up your college eligibility. So you had your college eligibility. You would have had it for the 5 years, Charles, but then you gave it up. I don't necessarily think that that's where the NCAA is closing their loophole, right? Because these guys like Dink Pate, these guys Dink Pate's a great example because he never went to college, so he never got his college eligibility. So he can't give up his college eligibility that he did get, that Charles did ultimately get. Now, do I think it's fair that Dink Pate is teasing coming to college? No, I don't. I think he should be. You went to the G League, buddy. You played professionally. You never went to college. That's a decision you made. You got to live with it. It's just difficult. It's a difficult pill to swallow here in West Alabama because of all the other loopholes that are open at the moment.
And that's the thing. Like, I don't think this should be a perspective. This shouldn't be a perspective that I give and it's viewed as, oh, like crimson colored glasses. I think this is something that more people should be able to look at and just recognize the complete unfairness in Cam Metzger comments. College sports as a whole needs a mass reset. Absolutely correct. They do. And until you get that reset, don't tell a guy that he cannot play, because I was told when, for example, all these players went to go play in the G League Elite, right, for that program. We were told, oh, they're foregoing their college eligibility and playing in this league. Clearly not. Clearly not. I'm not really upset that the European players get the opportunity to play. The system is really set up in a way where they have to. We've talked about this, and I think that is something that should be taken into account if and when real, legitimate, permanent rules get put into place. Rules that can't just be walked over selectively, and the NCAA is able to take one athlete and make him into the villain. And I don't know, man. It is.
Well, that's a good place to move the conversation.
Yeah, that is a good place to move
because I wonder, Theo, if this has gotten so much attention because Charles came from the G League, because Charles played for Alabama before, or either of those two layers, or because the layer that I suspect is because Charles is going to could really help this basketball team and take them from you're 4th, 5th in the SEC, you're a fringe Sweet 16 team, into could that be a Final Four team? You've taken, like with James Najee and Baylor, he's barely contributed. And I haven't followed Baylor like super closely, but I don't see them as a Final Four Elite Eight caliber basketball
Baylor's
team.
been a bad team this year,
right? And so because they've been bad, nobody cares about how you got this other professional from the G League, and he just goes on the radar under. Who cares? They're bad. It doesn't matter. It didn't really help them. And while you look at the record, Alabama was 3-2 with Charles Bediako. But you could see the bones of, he really helps their defense at the rim. Wow, gives them a rim runner. He keeps Noah Williamson off of the floor, so you really helped Alabama's depth. And if you get another 5 weeks of Charles Bediako playing with this group of guys and playing with this team and gaining cohesion and chemistry, what could Alabama be? I wonder if that played the biggest factor here.
No, I think it does, right? You got to. I think it's just a lot of the frustration that people have had with the system throughout multiple years in multiple sports, and you finally have a clear villain that you can actually go after, and that you actually have a chance to win something, right? And get something back to the old ways, if you will. We're well past that point, but an opportunity for everyone who's frustrated to rally around something. And I understand that. And this was clearly that opportunity. It completely overshadows the James Najee thing, right? Like there's been no frustration at all about that since Bediako took the court for the first time. So I just think that you have so many people who are rightfully mad about this system, who are mad about the direction of college sports, who would do anything just to see things go back to the way they were 7 years ago. I understand that completely. I just also think that we need to be, I don't know why everyone has decided that, let's just side with the NCAA right now, right? Like, I don't know how the NCAA managed to pull this off in the court of public opinion, where they have all these college fans who for years have been just dumping on them nonstop. And now, let's go NCAA. We got an athlete off the court. We did something together. I just don't get it, man.
Well, it's because of the inconsistencies. And people, get upset with the NCAA when they rule against their own team. And so, the NCAA is so unfair. Look at this guy. He's transferred back home because his mom was sick and y'all declared him ineligible. What the heck? Come on, NCAA, get it right. Basically, I think that the inconsistencies have really rubbed the college sports fan the wrong way, because it feels like picking and choosing the enforcement, and it feels like the NCAA playing their favorites And in this case, it's hard to wake up today not feeling like one of the NCAA's not favorites. Because, look, James Najee played 9 minutes on Saturday against Iowa State. 9 minutes, no points, 3 rebounds, and 1 block in 9 minutes. They lost 72-69. Would this Charles Bediako case matter at all if he was playing 9 minutes, not scoring, and Alabama was losing?
People wouldn't care as nearly as much, right? The fact is, everyone watched the game on Saturday, right? Before turning on Duke UNC, the whole country saw Bediako go 5 for 5. They saw the highlights of, oh, wow, this guy's catching lobs against Tennessee, and Alabama lost, but like, oh, this is something scary. And we know that Alabama struggled, right? We saw the loss to Florida, but the fact of the matter is that this team is significantly better with Charles Bediako on the floor. And you talked, like, I think his total plus minus for his time here was +4, right? That doesn't stand out, but if you look at the vertical spacing that this man provides, right? And you look at the way that Alabama has been able to get off 3-pointers because of what he does inside, because he's able to draw a defender in, shift their coverage on the weak side, and allow, like, you look at Phylon, dribble the ball off of a Bediako screen and be able to either give it to him or kick out to someone else or get a better look at a mid-range shot. Like, it just affects so much for this team. And I'm fairly confident that, yes, like you said, with another 4 or 5 weeks, this team would look better with him on the court.
Coach Oates responding last night on Hey Coach. Obviously super disappointed, Oates said. Disappointed in the whole thing, to be honest with you. I don't think it ever should have gotten to court. I thought the NCAA should have made him eligible based on over 100 current college basketball players, former professionals, most of them over in Europe, some of them in the G League, guys being drafted, rights owned by NBA teams, as in James Najee being eligible to play. I thought it was kind of a no-brainer with the NCAA. Then I didn't think it would be much of an issue. The NCAA hasn't really changed much without courts forcing them to change. I thought the courts would see in the inconsistencies in the rulings and agree with Charles's attorneys. To me, the NCAA's point of why Charles shouldn't be eligible was all these rules that they have, but they're not applying those rules to all these other players they've made eligible. To me, it was very disappointing in the whole case. Disappointing for Charles. Disappointed in the ruling, disappointed in the system, both in the NCAA, the courts, the whole thing. Just with the inconsistencies with who's eligible and who's not, it seems like the European international players are being given preferential treatment over the Americans. It more so happened today. Hopefully at some point, somebody's going to win a ruling like this. It wasn't here today, but at some point, somebody will win one and change the system, because that's how it has to get changed in the NCAA. They don't make changes on their own typically. Let's use that quote and move this into the next part of the conversation. Is, will the NCAA shut things down in the summer ahead of the next season? Will they have stronger rules? Will they grandfather some of these European players into the system and make new rules for all the new players in 2026, 27? How will the NCAA adjust? And Theo, if the NCAA doesn't adjust, will Nate Oates just troll through the Slovenian leagues, troll through the Japanese leagues, troll through the European, the Italian, the wherever? You pick your favorite international league, the French leagues, and find himself a nice Russian center who wants to bang bodies, a nice 22-year-old Russian center who's never played in college before to come be a freshman? Will Nate Oates pivot and start recruiting some of these European players?
All right, first of all, to the Alabama fan base, if players get grandfathered into this system, you should all be up in arms. You should have your pitchforks ready. If the NCAA says, yeah, we're going to make changes, but you guys who are here already can stay. You guys should be furious if that happens. Comment from Cam Metz here. They see Bama as a threat, but if it was a South Alabama, for example, nothing would be said. Bama's always been hated by every fan base. Every little thing Alabama does is under a microscope. I absolutely agree. I think that ties into it a little bit, right?
Like if they were the 16th best team in the SEC, and Bediako was averaging 3 points and 3 rebounds, they wouldn't care.
And also, like, you still have that residual, like, Nick Saban disdain, right? That boils over. So they see Alabama cheating. Oh, was Nick Saban paying players? It goes back to all that, right? That's besides the point for right now. It's like, if players are grandfathered in, you guys should be furious. Bediako would. One of the things that was discussed on Friday is that he could receive a payout after the fact, right? Depending on how the rules are changed, where he will probably, I believe the NCAA will cut him a check for probably a conservative estimate on whatever his NIL earnings would have been, plus future loss of reputation. It'll be a small check, but enough to give him a little bit of money. Obviously won't get him back onto the court and won't affect any of that. And then the 5-year clock is over.
Probably going to be bigger than my paycheck, though.
At most bars, right? Maybe it'll be enough for him to afford an Alabama education.
There you go.
So, to that point, though, I do think that the NCAA needs to go scorched earth this summer. I think that if it's not now, then when will it be? If you haven't seen enough this year to put an end to all of these shenanigans,
yep,
I will have lost all hope in their ability to ever corral this situation, ever improve it. I believe this is a possible doomsday scenario for the NCAA. You either end this right now, or you will cease to exist as an organization within the next decade. If you cannot get control of your sports, if you cannot reach a conclusion that satisfies your members, they are going to find a better alternative. And you already have. I was reading an essay written last week by former athletic director of a couple American East schools, right? These mid-majors. He said that at least 200 of the 360 Division I schools in the country would be better off financially if they cut sports or dropped to Division III.
Oh, yeah.
You already have a system where just about everyone besides the top schools are losing out, right? Keep that in mind while you try to find a way to satisfy the top schools, because we know that the University of Albany and Binghamton and South Alabama are not playing into the NCAA's decisions all that much. But knowing that these schools would be better off under just about any other system, right? You have to find a way to really balance everything, right? And I don't know what the solution is, and we can talk for hours about this and make no progress.
Well, the other aspect of what you're talking about right here is the fact that you have momentum. You actually have momentum with finally winning a court case. Yeah. We'll see what ends up happening with Trinidad Chambliss and Joey Aguilar. I know both those are still kind of up in flux right now, but you actually have a little momentum. You need to capitalize on it and push the envelope a little further, because I think the public sentiment is wanting college athletics to be back in some sort of a control. I don't think anybody really has any issue with the average college player making money, or even the superstar college player making money. If you are the face of the NCAA right now, if you're the Tim Tebow, if you're the Cooper Flagg, if you are, pick your favorite. If you're Reggie Bush, like he was a huge one, Lightning Rod. If you are one of these types of players, then you should be making money. Absolutely. I don't think anybody has any problem with the college athletes making money. But it's the exploitation of college athletics that people have an issue with. Theo, you hit it a couple of days ago when the NCAA didn't have any sort of control implementing any of these rules, didn't really put their foot down on any of these NIL rules. 3, 4, 5 years ago, you ended up with the power being all in the kids' hands. And look, I think the kids should be empowered. They are the quote unquote labor in this situation. Like, they should be empowered, but there's got to be some sort of give and take here. And you've got to get back to, I think the public wants to see you get back to a 5 years to play 4. And even if it's 5 years to play 5, okay, everybody gets the extra year to be on the court. You can not redshirt and play 5 years. It's fine. But I think the public sentiment wants to see college athletics as a whole get back to the guys I'm watching on TV, the women I'm watching on TV, whether it be college football, college basketball, softball, baseball, whatever the case may be. These are college age kids. These are kids who are still, about to be professionals, whether it be professional athletes or professional lawyers or professional accountants, whatever it may. They're not professionals yet. And yeah, sure, their extraordinary talent in college makes them some money right now. But all this, the way the NIL is set up right now to keep really college kids in college rather than going professional, like, look, Ty Simpson had a decision to make. Ty Simpson, do you stay for your last year, hit the transfer portal and cash in at $6.5 million to go to Miami, or do you end up going to the Jets and taking a risk that you're a second round pick or third round pick? Like, it should not be. I'm sorry, but that as a decision blows my mind. Oh, do you want to go play professional, or do you want to stay one more year in college and you could make just as much money or more staying in college? Like, I think the average college fan wants to see their players make money, wants to see their players be successful. But hey, once you're a senior, I'm sorry. Sure, you might have had COVID, or your coach might have been mean to you, or you were, playing in the wrong system and you had to transfer out. Well, these things happen. Sometimes you work a job that doesn't quite fit and you don't stay for 15 years. You stay for a year. You stay for 6 months and you go to a new job, but you don't get to pick right back up where you were at that new job. I mean, sometimes you do, but that's a rare occasion.
That's how it has always worked.
Right.
It always will work.
And so I'm of the opinion that people want to see college athletics back into some sort of the guys and the girls that I'm watching are college age. And so their decision yesterday, Charles Bediako is still college age. This would have been his last semester. Does it stink from an Alabama perspective? Yeah, because you could have used him on the floor. But I think that this decision is, and maybe it's just my optimism, but just, I think this decision is a sign of college athletics getting back to where we needed to get to.
Yeah, I don't think I share a single ounce of any of your optimism there, Joe. Just because I've seen how the things have gone for so long, and you can say, "Oh, the Bediako thing is a step in the right direction." I don't really think it is. I mean, even if you look at it from the perspective that most people have, right? The common opinion right now being that this was an egregious overstep and that a player who gave up his eligibility to go play pro basketball should not be allowed back. Because that's what most people think here. Well, yeah, if we're going off that perspective, sure, that's an easy, egregious overstep. And getting rid of such an extreme example like that still does almost nothing to fix the far more common issues that have a real impact on the sport. There were very, very few Charles Bediakos out there, right? In the grand scheme of things, there are very few people who could follow the same model that he has. I don't even have the number on how many college players that are within a 5-year window gave up eligibility, went to play pro basketball, and would realistically want to or be willing to go back to play college again. That's not a common example. I think as far as looking at solutions, back to what you were talking about, I like the 5 years to play 5. I think it makes a lot of sense. And you include NAIA in that. You include okay, you want to go play 2 years at a junior college. You have 3 years waiting for you in the NCAA. If a guy's playing his entire freshman season and you want to play 4 more years after that, sure, knock yourself out. Go ahead. I do think that The one thing I feel a little unsure of is like, okay, what if you have should Latrell Wrightsell been allowed to come back this year? You know, you're in your 5th year. You suffer a really bad injury right away. I like the idea of a medical red shirt again. Getting a 6th year doesn't sound horrible to me, but you might also be at a point where you need to just draw a really firm line in the sand. In fact, you might need to just build a wall in the sand and say, yeah, I'm sorry. I don't care what happened, but you finish your 5th year as a college athlete. Or for a European guy, you finish your 5th year after turning 18. I'm sorry, you are done. You are not playing another game, no matter what happened. And honestly, it would lead to some unfortunate situations. And there would be some athletes who would probably be a little screwed over by it, but it would be a much better overall product and a much better overall system than whatever mess we have right now.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I hope that this becomes a step in the right direction, but you do have to get a more consistent resolution with the European players as well.
Yeah, and let's also remember to add one more point. Like, the NCAA still does not win cases. Like, I'm sorry, this is one win. And it's a very extreme example. You have shown no ability to win anything in court. That's a normal case. So I still completely think that the NCAA, even if they want to implement this, even if they do want to let common sense prevail, will be unable to make it happen in the court of law.
Well, we will see. Let's head out to the voicemail line, Theo, because I think I got our man Hunter Brantley reacting to Charles Bediako. You can call the voicemail at 205-462-7340, extension 800.
I'm shocked by all of this. I really am. I cannot believe this at all. When I walked out of that courtroom after that hearing on Friday, immediately after, I had a good feeling that Charles would win his preliminary injunction. And then we go to the presser, and I think Nate Oates just shot him in the foot. Shot everybody in the foot. In fact, might as well just cut our foot off after what he said about if he doesn't get cleared, if he doesn't get the preliminary injunction, are you going to keep him on scholarship? And he's like, oh, yeah, Charles is our guy. Charles is our guy. Probably should have just said no comment, not taking questions about this at this time. Move on, move past this. I feel like that was a big turning point in all of this. I didn't think Taylor Askew had a great claim, to be honest with you. I thought he did an all right job, but I don't know, man. There's really no consistency, bottom line, with this. You let 26 and 27-year-olds play college athletics. You let pros from Europe come over and play. A guy goes to the G League, never plays a single NBA game. Didn't even get drafted, by the way. Played on 3 G League teams and decides he wants to come back to school. And now it's a big fuss. It's a big problem. Everyone has to yell about it. But no one cares about James Najee. No one cares about the dude at Louisville. It's a double standard, man. It really is. It's a complete double standard. Point blank, period.
Joe, you know the point in the courtroom where Charles Bediako lost? Because Hunter is alluding to something very real. You know, Nate Oates was asked, will you keep him on scholarship? They said yes. But the moment that Bediako's team lost was, okay, so what would Charles Bediako do if he wasn't able to stay in school? Or if he wasn't able to keep playing? Well, Charles really wants to earn his degree. Next question basically goes into how would Charles be affected by not being able to play? Well, you know, the cost of attendance is prohibitive. We don't know if he would be able to afford to go. How much did Charles make in his career? Well, the average G League salary is $40,000 to $50,000. Yeah, but how much did Charles make in his career? Oh, around $550,000. That was the worst argument that you could have possibly made, telling someone that the cost of attendance at the University of Alabama,
it's expensive
for a guy who has made $500,000 over the past 3 years.
It's expensive.
Was restrictive. I'm sorry, but the fact that that was a real argument in that courtroom was just absurd.
I mean, college is expensive, Theo.
It is expensive.
I'm still paying my student loans. I'm still paying Fannie Mae and whoever the other name is.
On the other hand, like, can you imagine if Nate Oates just got up at that presser and said, "Yeah, if he can't play, we're getting rid of his scholarship." Like, there was no way to win. I think Bediako's team just brought up a horrible example in that courtroom, and that was really the only moment in there where I was like, why did they say that? What are we doing here? Because I thought Bediako's team did a great job in that room. And I thought the NCAA had some weak points. And then if you would have just left off that piece about, attendance being and tuition being too expensive, you might have had a better shot. But that's in the past now. So I guess a question on that. Will we see Charles Bediako walking up the aisle at Coleman Coliseum to get his diploma?
Don't you have to at this point if you're Charles? Like, you're committed to it. You're committed to the plot.
Well, the thing is, like, I believe the expectation is that he could get right back on in G League roster.
Could, sure.
Now, I think he probably has to stay at the university to receive any payout from the NCAA, at least for this semester. But once you get the and I don't know how close Bediako is to graduating.
Well, he did 2 years of school, so he probably needs about another year and a half.
Yeah, but athletes are sometimes accelerated, right? So
right.
Maybe he's closer.
Probably needs about a half a year. Man, maybe it's this semester.
I'd imagine he's taking all online classes because nobody
sure.
has been able to pull an example of him. Nobody's found him in any course syllabus or anything. I take a lot of classes with these athletes, and I was looking and I was asking people, and no one can find it. So that would have been a fun tweet. Like, hey, gotta, how people will screenshot like an athlete's discussion board post. That would have been
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Let's see. I don't see. I'm looking. I was looking to see if there was any appeal process, but we haven't written on BamaCentral about any appeal, any potential appeal of this decision. So I assume that it's final, based on not hearing about that at this point. What I'm thinking about, Theo, is what happens on the court with this team, because now you're back to not having a backup five or a starting five, depends on the night, really, with he and Aiden Sherrill. And you're throwing Noah Williamson back out there. Are you going to get Keaton Bristow back on the floor? That seems unlikely. There's been a lot of nasty rumors about Keaton Bristow in the last weekend. And I'm not going to dignify him by saying them quite yet. I do think I'm going to try to figure out a way to tactfully ask Coach Oates about Keaton Bristow today.
Yes.
I got to think about a nice way to ask him. Can we get an update on Keaton Bristow's injury?
It's just so we know we're going to get the same answer every time. Like, I don't know if there's any way to get more out of it, but it is really like, I think that some of the rumors basically speaking about, he's faking an injury to try to transfer. Like, I don't know I don't think I believe that. I think that's an egregious overstep.
Isn't that just fans and their feelings, right?
Yes.
Fans and their feelings.
And I think it isn't hurt at all by not knowing what's going on.
Sure, yeah, right.
So I've talked, for example, another guy like that is Davion Hanna, right, where we don't really know anything. And I've talked to him a bunch in class, and I just sit next to him there, so we'll talk. And I was asked, okay, so what is it? And he was just like, oh, it's a thing going on, like, can't say anything. And that's what every athlete, that's how they all have to speak, right? And when you have a guy like Davion or like Keaton Bristow, where you have something that no one thought would be long term and is just dragging out like this, speculation is always going to come up, and you have to some extent, especially when we have a system of college sports. Yes, I'm going to bring it back here where athletes have done stuff like that before. Not to say that any of these guys are, but I understand where people are coming from.
Well, even if the man transfers out, and even if the man does get a medical red shirt for this year, I don't think that means that he's faking whatever he's dealing with.
No,
right now.
I don't either. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel comfortable really getting deeper in on that, because I think it's really unseemly.
Yes.
To suggest that he's. I mean, he could be milking an injury, but I think that's really unseemly to suggest. And I think that's not really fair to Keaton Bristow or to the Alabama, to really anybody in that facility to suggest that.
I agree.
I think we need to figure out a way to ask more, to try to see if we can't. Because Coach Oates is a talker. If you ask him the right question, hit the right button, I think you can get a little more out of him.
Just anything, right? Because we've been starving for any kind of update there. I do not think we will see Keaton Bristow on the court this year again.
I don't either.
And I think that, get ready to watch a lot of Noah Williamson.
No, don't curse me like that, Lurch.
We're gonna see it.
The Adams family. So let's take it all the way there and finish the show up by saying, how does this change the outlook for the rest of the season? We've been talking on the show for the last couple of weeks about SEC regular season championship, pivoted to top 4 seed. Is top 4 seed still viable for this team? We went over the next 5 games being not as tough for Alabama. Is top 4 seed still viable for this team? Can they make a run to win an SEC tournament title? And take you back to Theo's take, can they make the Sweet 16?
Yeah, top 4 seed still needs to be the goal.
It has to be.
We did the complete breakdown of the schedule yesterday. You have 4 of your next 5 opponents are not making the NCAA tournament. That does not happen in SEC play. You do not get stretches like that very often. So you absolutely have to take advantage of that. You got to go 4-1 minimum. And look, if you do go 4-1 into it's Tennessee, Georgia, Auburn down the stretch. Let's say you go 1-2 in that stretch, right? 5-3 will put you in contention for a top 4 seed. Realistically, it probably needs to be 6-2. But you're there. You have the complete ability to go 6-2 over these final 8 games. You have 4 free wins, as close to free wins as you're going to get. And look, if you lose any of those 4 games, I think we have bigger problems than can you win an SEC title. Out of Arkansas, Georgia, because Georgia's on the road, Tennessee's on the road, and then Arkansas and Auburn at home. Your 4, relatively tough games there.
Yeah, you try to win those 2 home games. Try to steal one of the road games.
Yeah, and even if you can go 2-2 in that stretch, you finish this season out 6-2, you're getting a top 4 seed. That's the goal. I do not think this team will win an SEC title. I do not think this team will get past the SEC semifinals. I do not think, as I've said, lost count of how many times now, I do not think we will see this team in the Sweet 16.
Well, we will see how it plays out over the next 2 months. I think that I'm almost in agreement with you. I think that getting a top 4 seed becomes much tougher without Charles Bediako. I think it's still possible for sure. But I think it becomes much tougher because I think the rebounding issues and the backup center issues become very problematic. I do acknowledge that Noah Williamson has improved 3 to 5% through the year, but it's still at a place that it's a pretty problematic spot with your backup center. And you don't really know what you're getting out of Taylor Boboan on a night-to-night basis. Sometimes it's great, and sometimes it's absolutely nothing. I'm in agreement with Theo. I don't think you're going to see Keaton Bristow the rest of the year. I'm pretty positive you're not seeing Davion Hanna or Collins Onyeka at all the rest of the year as they deal with their issues also. So I think you've got a pretty tall task over these next 8 games, despite the first 5 of them being not as challenging. I think they become more challenging because of your own roster deficiencies. And I think more pressure gets put on LeBaron Philon, Aiden Holloway, and Latrell Wrightsell. Those 3 guys are going to have to really play at a high level. Play good defense, but play efficiently on offense. Can't turn the basketball over on offense. And have to really correct some of these free throw shooting issues that you've had pop up over the last 2-3 weeks or so. So I think you can still get a top 4 seed. I'm pretty out on being able to win an SEC tournament title, sadly.
Out
Without
the window.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's 0%, but I definitely wouldn't be betting any of my coppers on that. I would be pretty surprised to see Alabama make a deep run. Now, a top 4 seed will help them do that. If you can get a top 4 seed, you don't have to win that many games in Nashville to win the whole dang thing. But I think it's pretty. I think that's a pretty long shot. And then I still feel okay about the team getting to the Sweet 16 with the right draw. But I do think that if they run into a team like St. Mary's, like they did last year, St. Mary's would be beating this year's version of Alabama and would keep you out of the Sweet 16. I think that it can be. I think that Alabama will make the Sweet 16 with the right draw, but I think it'll be a lot tougher without Charles Bediako.
You have to make it to the 5 line. Yeah, or I guess you're on the 5 line right now by some people. Okay, so there's a good comment.
Great
RTR,
question. Great question.
291. Can y'all see the NCAA give us a lower seed for somewhat of a punishment for the lawsuit? Yes, I absolutely can. I don't care what's been said about, oh, you can't punish someone for losing in the court of law. All the statements that the NCAA has made. You don't think those people sitting down in that committee are going to say, man, we cannot see Alabama succeed in this year's tournament? You know, the NCAA selection committee is obviously the standard of, integrity and great morals. So
which committee is more upstanding, the College Football Playoff Committee or the NCAA selection committee?
All right. I mean, let's,
no, but I'm with you. With RTR, I think that is absolutely a possibility. Now, they won't say it's a punishment.
No, they won't. They'll make up some stuff about Alabama's losses, and they'll give us valid reasons. And I'm right with them when they want to point out flaws on this basketball team. They can listen to me talk about them and just use those talking points to dock this team a seed or two. But if you are not on the 4 or 5 line, it gets so much harder to make it to the Sweet 16. Look at the top. Yeah, just go look at the top 12 teams in the country right now. Who on that list is Alabama beating in a tournament game?
Ooh, pretty tough list. I think the punishment will come subliminally to where, oh, you should have been a 5 seed. We're giving you a 6 seed. Or you should have been a 5 seed. Here's your toughest 5 seed draw. Oh, and you're out in Portland. You're out in the world. You're out in the West Coast as well.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah, you are no Alabama fan in the Southeast is making it to the first or second round game. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I think that it will be subliminal or subvert a punishment that is not, hey, we're punishing Alabama. They're not going to punish Alabama to the point where you're not in the tournament, but are they going to punish them to the point of, ooh, I don't like this draw. This draw is not good for the Crimson Tide. Yeah, I can see that happening.
I think Alabama will end up on the 6 line if I had to predict right now. And
top 6 seed?
Yeah, I think it'll be a 6 seed.
The number 1 6 seed, not the 4 6 seed.
Oh.
They're going to drop them to number 4 just because they can.
Yeah, I don't know. I think because if we look at it, and if this team does really go 6-2 right down the stretch with, let's say, an SEC semifinal loss, that's a resume that could be a weak 4 seed, right? I mean, you're getting up there. So it depends. If the team, let's just say this, if Alabama gives them a reason to be docked, they will be docked. And that reason could be, oh man, you lost by 30 in the SEC tournament to Florida after being a 4 seed. That could be the reason. That would be enough to, we'll see Alabama drop a bunch because of a loss like that.
Well, follow Theo Fernandez at Theo Fernandez __ on the Twitter machine. Make sure you visit roofturtle.com for all of your roofing needs. We love Purple Turtle Roofing sponsoring the program. They'll help you out with your residential roofing, your commercial roofing, for all of your roof repairs. Check them out at roofturtle.com. We appreciate Derek Daniel for hosting the program. Call Derek Daniel, State Farm Insurance, at 205-758-3391. Like a good neighbor, Derek Daniel is there. We're getting out of here for the day. We're going to go talk to Nate Oates. He's going to obviously have a lot of reaction to this. I'm sure he's going to want to try to steer it to the Ole Miss game, and it is a big game. Look, every game from here on out, it's a big game. And as my friend Coach Webb Sanderson used to say, it's not a big game until you lose it, and then it becomes a big big game. So Alabama has a big matchup at Ole Miss tomorrow night. We'll hear from Coach Oates on the Bama Central YouTube channel. We'll hear from Patrick Murphy as well on the Bama Central YouTube channel. I'll try to get over there. If I'm not there, Katie Wyndham will be there. So the press conference will be on the Bama Central YouTube channel. You can check out his comments after his team smashed 18 home runs in opening weekend. So big weekend for them. We'll see how they follow it up in week number 2. That's really going to be the plan for us today. Theo, you got any other comments, thoughts, questions, queries, or complaints?
That's all I got, Joe. 3 days to baseball.
3 days until Alabama baseball. It's just LeBron season. And it's coming soon right here to Tuscaloosa, the Sewell Thomas Stadium.
So the Joe.
There we go. Exactly. We get out of here. We'll talk to you tomorrow right here on the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central, BamaCentral.com.